Hello and welcome to the Comic Cave. I'm Ramsey, aka Captain Away, and today I'm looking at the 2005 series Ororo Before the Storm. The X-Man, X-Woman, X-Person? Let me start over. The X-Men character, Storm, is easily one of the most popular and well-known of the X-Men. And with good reason. She was an important character in the history of the team. She joined as a founding member of the second ever lineup of X-Men, and would go on to become team leader for many years. Even when not team leader, she's still been known as a powerful mutant that can control the weather at her whim. She was once worshipped as a goddess and would even briefly become Queen of Wakanda as the wife of T'Challa, the Black Panther. She also, all too briefly, had a badass mohawk. She should bring that back. Seriously, what's not to love about that? But things weren't always great for our queen. She was orphaned at an early age and grew up on the tough streets of Cairo, where she would come to be adopted, more or less, by the master thief Ahmed El-Jabbar. El-Jabbar would teach Ororo to be a thief as well, until one day she left on a journey to find her own people, where Charles Xavier would find her and ask her to become an X-Man. X-Woman. Whatever, you know what I mean. For the character's 30th anniversary, Marvel decided to do a special story focused on her early days as a thief in the streets of Cairo, a portion of her past that hadn't been explored much. And that series was this one, obviously. So let's see what trouble this young mutant gets up to and take this away. The comic opens on some Indiana Jones shit. Well, actually, I don't see any Nazis around, so I guess this might be more like some Tomb Raider shit. Same difference. Our unnamed intrepid explorer is in the temple of Huitzilopochtli in Mexico to recover some unknown artifact. But all the tricks and traps finally get the better of him when a vine he's swinging on snaps and he nearly falls into a pit of spikes. A guy in a white suit named Barrett is there and could rescue him, but of course he's only interested in the treasure. Wait, Corona? So it was you bastards that started all this. Barrett gets the treasure, and our Dr. Explorer gets the pit of spikes, which moves us right along to Cairo, where our main character, adolescent Ororo, along with her friends, the reluctant Hakim and the very Slytherin Nari, are attempting to steal an apple of the people. Or maybe Ororo just doesn't understand that food costs money. Maybe she knows the Sultan. Maybe she thinks the monkey is the Sultan. Whatever the case, they get caught when Nari slaps an apple out of Hakim's hand and the noise of it hitting the ground attracts the attention of some guards. That must be one loud apple. So the three kids are forced to go on the run across the rooftops, hoping to put themselves one jump ahead of the lawmen. Only Hakim is unable to make that jump, falling painfully to his death. Oh, no, wait, he's fine. Ororo drops down after him because as a good friend, she cares more about checking on him than she does about getting caught. Unlike that effing Slytherin Nari. But that gets Ororo and Hakim caught by the guards. Luckily, right then, Ahmed El-Jabbar shows up, and I guess he's such a well-respected figure that not only do the guards let the two kids go once they realize they were his pupils, they also actually give him the food that the kids were stealing. What? That makes no sense to me. The first time I read this, I assumed El-Jabbar was some kind of benevolent nobleman sticking his nose in just to help the kids and didn't actually have anything to do with them. But no, he's their adoptive father, as we'll soon learn when everyone returns home to have their ill-gotten dinner. Despite Nari claiming to have fought the guards off herself, and despite Ororo not getting any dinner because she takes the fall for Hakim's failures. Hakim, knowing she's not really to blame, shares half his dinner with her, reasoning that she's really the one who deserves it. Aw, you're a good guy, Hakim. Something horrible is totally happening to you, isn't it? Entirely possible, considering that the next morning, Ororo finds her teacher/father making deals with the devil. And by devil, I mean that mysterious white-suited Barrett guy. Dun dun dun! I guess this means we'll finally get to see what he looks like under all of that shadow. And the answer is some underwhelming British guy. Barrett is looking to hire the best thieves in all of Cairo, even if he expected the best thieves to not be children. But he doesn't let his biases slow him down because he really wants to get his greedy little hands on the opal of Ozymandias, a little gem with the legendary power to give people eternal life, albeit in servitude to Insaba-Nur. You probably know him better by the name Apocalypse. But Barrett says he doesn't believe in that legend, or in the curses for breaking into the temple that are supposed to exist that say Ozymandias will give life to the stones in order to crush all those who enter. Actually, he says he's never found a curse worth worrying about, which makes it still sound like he's actually found curses that did things, just not particularly worrying things, I guess. Seems like suspicious phrasing to me, but okay. The point is, he's not afraid of the curses so much as the booby traps, which are the main reason he's at least claiming that he's not going in for the opal himself, being too old for that kind of nonsense. But he still wants to retrieve that gem because otherwise, his words, not mine, otherwise some filthy local scoundrel too savage to understand its worth might get his hands on it and it would end up not in a museum where he feels it belongs. Yeah, that's how I know you're British. Thinking it's okay to plunder the culture of other races because they're, quote, too savage to know what to do with it. Such an imperialist. So anyway, since they believe Barrett about there being no curse worth worrying about, Ororo, Hakim, and Nari head into the pyramid, where they quickly run through a series of traps, including crushing quicksand, fire traps, and pits of alligators and scorpions. Quick question though, how do you keep pits of scorpions and alligators alive for thousands of years? What are they being fed? Is this important? Not really. The three thieves finally arrive in this Cave of Wonders, or I guess kind of the main chamber, and Nari, continuing her campaign to be the least likable person here, ignores Ororo's warnings about further booby traps and goes straight for the opal. And to nobody's surprise, this does result in triggering another trap, as all the various statues around the room suddenly come alive and attack them. The three kids do a surprisingly good job of fighting off the massive statue people, but of course in the end, they get captured. But the Ozymandias statue also comes to life, and he immediately recognizes Ororo for who she is destined to be. In fact, he's carved her destiny into the stones in the chamber. They don't dwell on this a lot, but I love this stone carving of Xavier and Cyclops. They look so ridiculous. That looks like I tried to draw them from memory. I can't get over how silly they look. Also, nice late 90s Photoshop gradients in your dialogue bubbles there. I'm sure that looks super cool at the time. Ozymandias insists Ororo has an important destiny to fulfill, and so he lets her and her friends go, and even lets them take the opal. For anyone who doesn't know what's going on here, given this little carving on the wall, it seems pretty clear that what Ozzy is referring to is the 12. A group of mutants Apocalypse believed he could use to give himself godlike powers. It was basically his Infinity Gauntlet, only instead of being made up of gems, it was made up of living people. Is that a messed up thing to say? Forget I said it. So the kids make a run for it, only what appears to be one last trap goes off. Though later we'll realize it was Barrett using powers he apparently has to try and get rid of the kids. And this quote-unquote trap finally catches the whole group. Nari alone manages to get away and tries to run to Ahmed Al-Jabbar for help digging the other two free, but she only finds Barrett, who has no interest in saving her friends. In fact, he's already captured Al-Jabbar and the other orphans, and now he's ready to give Nari her reward. Her eternal reward. No, I kid, she's fine. He just captures her as well, but does leave Ororo and Hakim behind, assuming that they're dead. But the two kids are actually still alive, just trapped under all the rubble, giving us a chance to reference Storm's claustrophobia, which she developed after a plane crashed into her house as a child, killing her parents and trapping her in the rubble. So trapped now in a similar situation, Ororo freaks out enough to summon up her mutant powers that she doesn't actually know about yet and create a wind so strong that it frees her and Hakim from the rubble. Though she obviously doesn't realize that she was the one responsible, thinking it only happened after she asked her goddess for help. This is a regular thing that Storm does, calling out to the goddess, and I find it kind of interesting because even she doesn't seem to know who the goddess is. I mean, she asked Romo at one point if she's the goddess she's always calling to. It's just like a weird affectation, I guess. Once freed, Ororo and Hakim go looking for the others, only to find themselves the only ones still at the campsite by the pyramid. Well, except for another kid named Abdul, who managed to escape Barrett's attempt to snatch up all the other orphans. Abdul leads Ororo and Hakim to a cave where Barrett is preparing to use the crown he got at the beginning of the story, if you remember back that far, along with the opal that he just got, and the sacrificed lives of El Jabbar and the other orphans in order to resurrect In Saba Nur and kickstart the apocalypse. But the kids have other plans. While Abdul distracts Barrett and the guards, Ororo and Hakim sneak in to untie the other captives, giving them a fighting chance to overpower Barrett and his goons. With the tables having suddenly turned, Barrett goes for the opal to finish what he started, only to find that it's been taken by Hakim. He chases Hakim around, but isn't willing to risk using his mutant powers on Apocalypse's sarcophagus. Did I mention that Barrett's a mutant? He's a mutant. I mean, he has a weird fire or energy power, and he called In Saba Nur, quote, the first of my kind. He's a mutant. But while Barrett may not want to risk attacking his Dark Lord, he has no qualms about killing kids, and so he captures Nari and threatens her life until Hakim gives up the stone. Hakim hesitates, unsure of what to do, so Ororo takes over, offering Barrett the stone in exchange for letting her and her adoptive family go. Barrett likes her spunk, so he agrees to the offer and takes the opal and crown to finally gain his ultimate cosmic power! Only, instead, it turns him to stone. Because as both he and Ozymandias have said, no power comes without a price. He got his immortality in the form of living forever as a stone statue. Guess that was one curse worth worrying about. So Ororo and her adoptive family walk into the sunset, off to see the world now that they're free. Or maybe just returning home so we can have 2 straight to VHS sequels, whichever. The point is, that concludes this little flashback of the story, so let's get to the breakdown. I don't think I have much to say about this story that at least I haven't already said. The art was pretty typical of more kid-focused stories Marvel was creating at the time. Nothing spectacular, but perfectly serviceable, and overall I like it. Largely the same thing with the writing. It feels a little generic to me, borrowing extremely liberally from other Tomb Raiding adventure stories, like the Brendan Fraser Mummy movies that were still pretty recent when this came out. But whether you consider that a good thing or a bad thing, I would say it probably wouldn't shade your opinion of this story that much. Despite the obvious influences, it stands pretty well enough as its own story. And that goes for people who might not be X-Men fans in general. It certainly has no qualms about nodding to the lifetime and stories longtime Storm fans will recognize, but it's certainly not a requirement to be a hardcore fan, and you could easily pick this up and enjoy it having never read an X-Men comic. Or a X-Men comic, for whichever side you come down on the A and debate there. Basically what that means is I'm giving this series a recommendation level of medium. It's a perfectly fine story that's nice and short and stands well enough on its own, and I think that makes it more than enough worth the read. The collected edition gets 1. Awkwardly carved Cyclops, which is pretty low on the scale of bad to good. It's not even as good as The Real Thing, and I don't even like The Real Thing. All it contains is the 4 issues of the series, and nothing else. That's it. End of video. Thanks everybody for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I got great news for all of you clamoring for me to get back to the New 52. I've got about one more video I'm gonna do that's not in the DC New 52 realm, and then for probably a few months, pretty much everything I'm at least planning on covering is probably gonna be from the New 52. I don't know, other things might slip in here and there. If you're excited about that, or if you just enjoyed this video, or you're just interested in what else I might cover, or just, kind of a nice person, then make sure to like and subscribe and comment and, all those good YouTube things. You've heard it a million times from a million people by now, I'm sure. But mostly just do it so you can make sure to stick around for next time, and I hope to see you then, right here in the Comic Cave.